we've been looking at a scene from Saturday Night Fever. I want to establish something about John Travolta and your name and life. Okay. Because in Italian, your name is the past participle of the verb travolgere, which means to sweep away.
Did you do that research?
To overthrow, or if you happen to be John Travolta, the name means to take by storm. Have you ever considered the symbolism of your name?
I've often asked my father and several Italians what my name meant, and everyone came up with a different answer. High voltage, a storm, something like that.
No, it's a verb. It's from the verb, and it means to take by storm or overthrow.
Oh, how fascinating. I love it.
Do you?
Yes.
Imagine, John, if you changed your name.
You know, at one time I thought of that early on in my career, and I talked with my manager, and he said, no. He said, I don't think you have to, John. And I said, why not? He said, well, you know, with names like Pacino and De Niro, he said Travolta is just. He said, he said, I like your name. I said, well, I like it too. You know, because it would be changed to something like Travis, I guess. I don't know, but I'm glad I didn't. I'd rather like it.
I think it's a great name. It's easy to say. Mm-hmm. It lingers. I want to say something to you because you said my manager, and we know that your manager's name is Bob Lamond. Mm-hmm. We know that Bob Lamond entered your life when you were 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And when someone asked you about believing in yourself or doubting your own ability, you said, I had a manager who every day reminded me that I was either going to be a very big star or a very important actor. How do you react to having become both so quickly?
I'm thrilled. I mean, I was awfully. I mean, I remember the days when I'd say, "Well, Bob, you." I said, I'm trying to think of exactly how I was without making myself look bad. I said, "When is it going to happen?" It's actually what I said. I worked very hard to sort of actually. To start from scratch on it, what the idea is in order to become an important actor or a star, only means that you can actually do what you'd like to do in the business. It means that you have control over your art. You can do the projects that you'd like to do. You can hopefully have the outcome of that project, and that's really what it means to me. And I'm thrilled that has happened, and it truly does now mean that I can literally choose the scripts that I'd like to do and what I would like to do in them. Excuse me. So that is what it means to me, and I am thrilled that it's happened, to answer your question.
John, have you in the past 4 years ever sat down with Bob Lamond and said to him, what did you see in me when I was 16?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He said, he told me that at age 16 because I said, why did you? Well, actually, he offered the answer to that right away, and then and he said that he saw me in a musical, where normally I guess the part would have been very overdone and sort of very musical comedy stereotyped, and he said, gee, you know, he said you were very so real. He said that it almost frightened me. He said, your sense of reality on the stage. He said, and no one would have ever attacked the part that way. He said, because I'd seen it a million times. It was Hugo in Bye Bye Birdie, right? And
this was still in New Jersey.
Yes, and I always approached a role as a serious actor, so I did that with a musical also, which I had only done plays before that. And so I think he was very impressed with that. And he thought I remember him saying then that he thought that I had a quality that was what he thought a star quality was like 7 years ago. It was only rough on a physical level. As far as the part, I had an idea of what I would like to do, which would make the difference. I mean, I think people are basically people throughout history. I think personality traits only change in their veneer, you know. I mean, in the 50s it was a different. Today I think it's more direct. I mean, the way I portray Tony Manero is much more specific and up front, where in 50s they had all these, what's the word? vias to communicate. With the head, and it was all these things. Instead of directly communicating to you, you used vias, as I guess were really. So I mean, I had an idea of what to do to make the difference. In the walk, for instance, the character, I made a bop for Grease, as opposed to Saturday Night, which was a sort of contemporary strut. Yeah. So I mean, I knew the differences, and it's a much lighter piece. I mean, there is not the intensity that Saturday Night Fever had. But as far as getting back to your question, to compare the two and to think if I made a connection to the both of them, I guess everyone says, gee, it's the same type of role. Well, if you're portraying a youth, sort of hip youth of any period, there are going to be similarities, just in some of the thinking. Except, I think, through the periods of change, again, you just change the overt physical vias and things like that.
Okay, tell you what, we'll take a commercial break and come back with more of Saturday Night Fever, okay?
Sure.
Be right back. I want to establish something. Do you realize how many millions of us will never get on the dance floor again thanks to you? You were going to turn us into shut-ins, people who are afraid to get up and express themselves with their bodies. Does that make you happy, John? Does it make you happy we have to stay home now?
Well, now that you put it that way, I guess it makes me very sad.
I feel
and I
better.
wish that the whole thing didn't happen.
But they're really, anybody who loves to dance and loves to get up, we were talking about it here and saying, my God, and I was saying things like, he can't dance at all, it's lighting, makeup. And then I find out you spent 5 months of your life, talk about training, but the results are there. I think they're spectacular dance scenes.
Thank you.
But I want to ask you something, because you said that you had to, if I can use the right word, enforce your solo number on the producers of that film, because the premise of the film was that Tony was the best, but he had no solo.
That's right.
How did John Travolta enforce his solo in the movie?
In the script, there was never a solo written. And I said, the partner dancing is fun and it looks great and everything, but I said, you'll never make the audience believe that he could, get the attention that he would be getting like he does in the film, or the way he can clear a floor, without some sort of history to it. So I said, I think you should show that. And I think it would be a sort of cop-out to just sort of fake that, like not really have him do it, just assume theatrical license to have him sort of, oh, well, he does dance, but we'll never see it, that kind of thing. And I said, I think you should have a solo. So I trained, excuse me, a long time, as you know, as we just said. And then when it came to shooting, there was a question whether I was going to still do that solo or not. And I said, look, I didn't train 5 months to just do the partner dancing. I said, I could have done that before. I said, I want to do what I worked on doing. So I had to enforce that solo. I said, first of all, it'll be of total benefit to the piece to do that. I said it'll be an exciting climax in the middle of the film, and I said it would just be awful if not to have it, and he'd show the audience that he really was the best dancer. So after a lot of selling my solo, I got it. And,
after a lot of enforcement,
yes,
you got it in.
Yes.
There's one really has to have respect for you when we realize that Midland, which is a subsidiary of the RCA record company, signed you to a very lucrative contract, and you very quickly had a song in the top 10. You did 2 albums, and suddenly there were overtures where you could go out to autograph sessions, personal appearances, perhaps take home a minimum of $25,000 an appearance, and you kept rejecting them, refusing to do them. And you said at one point, they didn't want my abilities, they wanted my presence. It wasn't based on product, it was based on the heat of the moment. It was building up personality as opposed to ability.
Right.
How do you deal with knowing that something is the heat of the moment, when you confide to someone that people before you, like David Cassidy, Bobby Sherman, withdrew. They withdrew from the business because they just couldn't take it anymore. Have you been protecting yourself all along, based on the heat of the moment?
I'm not sure what.
When you refuse to do those things, I mean, right, you made the decision in the middle of all of this not to take home $25,000 every time you showed up at a plaza or a record store,
Right.
but to tour in a production of Bus Stop, to do the William Inge play. Was that your decision, or did Bob Lamond, your manager, say, now here's what you've got to do, John, you've got to show them you are not a flash in the pan, this is not the heat of the moment, you're an actor. Who made the decisions? Who guided you into proving you had more ability than you were being allowed to show?
I did. I had my agent and manager offered many alternatives for the summer, and I had already made the album, and I did the album out of total pleasure. I mean, I just wanted to, because I do sing, and I've trained at singing, so I thought I would do an album, and I had fun doing it. And they said, well, you know, the William Morris agent said you could cash in on that and go off and do summer concert things. And I said, well, I don't have an act, and I wouldn't be very good just sitting up there and doing it. And they said, well, it could bring in a lot of money, John. And you know, I talked to Bob, and I said, you know, I really would like to do a play. I haven't been on the stage in a year and a half. The last time I'd been on the stage was on Broadway, doing Over Here, the Andrews Sisters show. So I was anxious to get back in front of a live audience again. And I said, you know, with the same power, I could choose whatever play I'd like to do and get to do what I want to do. So in other words, I took that same thing that was offered to me. Of course, it would mean much less money and practically none by the time you go out on the road, like we were talking before. And it meant that I could choose the play and also choose the cast. And I chose both my sisters to be in the play with me. And it was a glorious summer. I mean, I enjoyed it so much. I mean, there was the opening night in Maine, and they stood. There was a standing ovation at the end of the play. And I don't think I ever remember feeling as exhilarated and excited and glad to be an artist and thrilled that I had made my choice of going back on the stage. And it was also worth it. And I said, this is it. I mean, you know.
You were confident that the acclaim and the ovation was for your performance as Bo?
Oh, absolutely. Because I don't think any audience was expecting me to see anything else but Vinnie Barbarino. And when they saw Bo Decker, a cowboy from the West, out there that didn't show a bit of Vinnie, I think they were impressed. And by the reviews and everything, they saw that I was acting in both.
Okay, we'll take another break, okay?
Okay.
Be right back.
That part that my mother did, which we made up.
We're talking about the fact that John Travolta's mother has a very touching and quite wonderful scene in Saturday Night Fever, which did you have anything to do with her being cast, John?
I'll tell you, I had her audition for the real my mother in the film, and she didn't seem quite right for that. But then they gave her a smaller part, which hopefully I had a lot of influence over. But it was exciting because she was as good or better than anyone else that could have done that part. I mean, it was very. I mean, I think anyone else that would have come in to do such a small sort of improv type of thing would have been rigid and stiff and maybe unbelievable, and she wasn't either. I mean, you know.
Well, let's not put down all those years of training your mother had, plus the fact that she is a drama coach.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I don't think there was anyone better that could have done it. Do you know? I was very proud.
And your sister, as the girl behind the pizza counter?
Yes, and she was perfect in what she did. I mean, I felt very proud that the people that I was supporting to be in the cast were as good and probably better than anyone else that could have done it. So I was excited.
I find it interesting because we talk about acting and the success of Saturday Night Fever and the fact that Grease is a fait accompli and is finished. And suddenly the announcement that John Travolta at this point will co-produce his third vehicle, which is tentatively called Moment to Moment with Lily Tomlin. That's fast moving.
Yeah.
Co-producing. How did the project come about with Lily Tomlin?
I saw Lily. I've known Lily for a couple of years, not well before this time, but I've always been such a big fan of hers. I mean, I think she is the absolute best. And I saw her in her Broadway show again, and I went backstage and I said, my God, I said, you are absolutely incredible. And I just said, if only I could do something with her. So I went back to Robert Stugart and I said, I just would think it would be the greatest thing in the world to do a movie with Lily. They offered Lily the movie. She saw Saturday Night Fever, went crazy over it, and said yes to doing a role with me. And I took that as probably the biggest compliment in my career.
But John, did she ask you to dance?
No, actually said she wouldn't dance with me because...
you see what you've done to
yes.
everyone?
And
Lily Tomlin won't dance with you, eh? Right, there goes the big dance number from Moment to Moment,
right.
or whatever it ends up being called.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
there was a big Mervyn LeRoy film called Moment to Moment.
That's exactly the problem. They're trying to clear that.
However, I may be one of the 3 people in the world who remembers it was so bad, so there may be a stigma. It was the film that sent Gene Seberg back to Paris for good after that. When are you going to go ahead with it? Spring?
April 1st.
April 1.
April 1. And I'm so excited, I can't tell you. I mean, I'm nervous about working with her because I think she's so good. But she feels the same way, so I'm terribly complimented.
Equality.